Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive where we really try to get to the bottom of these complex topics and pull out the most important knowledge so you can
Yeah.
be in the know, so you can really understand things.
Have those aha moments.
Yeah, have those aha moments. So we know you're busy, and we want you to really get a deep understanding of things without having to
Wade through all the weeds,
exactly.
the deep
Yeah,
grass.
wade through all the weeds, all the details, all the things that maybe aren't so important.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to deliver here.
That's what we do.
Today, we're actually going to tackle a really fundamental aspect of learning, which is how different ways of teaching
Yeah.
lead to different kinds of knowledge and how some knowledge really sticks and some knowledge doesn't.
Right.
We've got a great piece of research to kind of guide this conversation. This is a 2015 article from the Educational Psychology Review
Okay.
called Comparing 4 Instructional Techniques for Promoting Robust Knowledge by J. Elizabeth Ritchie and Timothy J. Noakes-Malak.
It's a mouthful, but
Yeah, it is a mouthful, but I think this is important to kind of set the stage here because this isn't just one study. This is actually a review of like decades of research.
yeah, meta-analysis.
Exactly, a meta-analysis. So it's really looking at the overall landscape of research on this topic. So our mission, if you will, for this deep dive is to first of all understand what is robust knowledge. Like what does that even mean?
Right. Define it.
Right, we need to define it, and then we're going to explore 4 common learning techniques. I think everybody uses some of these. Everybody's experienced these. They are practice, worked examples, analogical comparison.
I love that one.
You love that one.
Yeah.
We'll get to that, and then self-explanation.
Oh, yes.
And we're going to see how all of these different learning techniques help to build that strong, robust, lasting understanding that we're all
Ideally aiming for.
ideally aiming for it. It's about, learning how to learn better.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just jump right in. We've got to start with this idea of robust knowledge.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like this ultimate goal of education, right? We all want robust knowledge.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where people are like, yeah, robust knowledge, but what does that actually mean?
Right, right. Well, the paper, points to expertise literature, right? When you look at people who are experts in their field,
Right.
their knowledge has some specific features, right? There are some hallmarks
Yeah.
of expertise. And so they dig into that and they say, well, when you look at people who are really good at something, what does their knowledge actually look like? How is it different from a novice?
Right. Okay, so tell me the secrets. What makes an expert's understanding so solid, so robust?
Okay, well, according to this paper citing Gian Olson from 2005, they say that expert knowledge is primarily deep, connected, and coherent.
Deep, connected, coherent. All right, I like it. That gives us a framework.
Yes, that's our scaffold.
Okay, so let's start with deep. What does it actually mean to have a deep understanding of a topic? Like, I think we throw that word around, deep understanding.
Yeah.
But how do we know if we have one?
So the paper is really getting at the idea that deep knowledge, deep understanding is about grasping like the core features of an idea or of a problem, right? Understanding not just the pieces, but how the pieces actually relate to each other in such a way that it allows you to solve a problem or really apply the idea. It's about going beyond the surface, like you're saying.
Right. It's not about just memorizing a definition. It's about, like getting the mechanics. Do you have like maybe a really clear example of that difference between deep and kind of like surface knowledge?
Yeah, I love this one. So the paper actually uses a classic example from the world of physics, right?
Okay.
When you give, say, a physics problem to someone who is a beginner,
Right.
and you give the same physics problem to someone who's an expert, the way they categorize those problems is actually very different. So beginners, because they have a superficial understanding,
Yeah.
tend to group problems based on how they look,
Right.
like whether there are blocks sliding or
Yeah.
if there are pulleys involved.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
But experts, because they have a deeper understanding of physics, they categorize these problems based on the fundamental principles that apply, like Newton's laws.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So for the listener, right, what this really means is that when you're approaching a new problem, think about the underlying principle, not just the surface level detail.
So like a beginner, like I said, I would look at 2 problems. Maybe they both have springs.
Right.
And I would be like, oh, springs, those are the same.
Right. Same count.
Even if one's like, simple harmonic motion and the other is like, potential energy in a different way.
Exactly.
But the expert sees through that and sees the core physics concept.
Exactly. They're seeing the deeper level principle.
Okay, so that makes total sense.
Uh-huh.
So this ability to see the principle-based features,
Mm-hmm.
Does that come naturally? Or is that something that you develop as you become more expert?
Well, thankfully, it's something you develop, right? The research that they cite, going all the way back to the early 80s, actually, shows that this ability to perceive those principle-based features, the deep features, develops as someone becomes more knowledgeable. And it's incremental.
So you don't just wake up one day and you're like,
I see it all.
I'm an expert.
Right.
I see all the deep features.
And what's really interesting, too, is that what is deep actually varies across domains.
Right. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
what's deep in history is going to be different than what's deep in computer science, for sure.
Totally, totally different features.
Okay, so we understand deep knowledge, but what's the advantage of having that?
Yeah, so
Like, why does it matter?
like what's the practical benefit? Well, the paper actually points out that having this deep knowledge allows you to use what are called forward-working strategies. Instead of just, trying to work backward from the answer you want to reach, experts can actually identify those deep features, the fundamental principles.
Right.
And from those, they can build the solution in a stepwise manner.
Interesting. So they're not just randomly trying things. They see the overall path.
Right.
And they can go from like step A to step B to step C.
Right.
Okay, so that's deep. We've got deep knowledge. Now, connected knowledge.
Yeah, my favorite.
Is your favorite.
I love connected knowledge. It's so important. It's like
Yeah.
the web of relationships that link together separate pieces of information in your mind.
Okay.
It can be between abstract ideas
Right.
and concrete examples, or between different concepts within the same domain, or even across different subjects.
So you're making connections.
Right, making connections.
Between everything.
Everything. Even the steps
Oh, right.
in a problem-solving process, whether you're consciously thinking about them or they've become automatic. They are connected. And what's important about this is that these connections don't just exist within a single problem, but they actually link different problems you've encountered,
Right.
potentially even in different domains.
Okay.
So the real takeaway here is that knowledge isn't just isolated facts. It's
Right.
really about building that rich web of interconnected ideas.
Okay, so almost like a mind map.
Right, like a mind
Where
page.
everything relates
Everything's related.
to everything else.
Right, and that's what makes knowledge so powerful.
Do you have a good example of these connections like in action? Like how would we see that?
Yeah, so the paper, it mentions the work on chess players.
Okay.
Right, and I think this is a classic example. So you look at expert chess players, and they're able to recognize these complex patterns on the chessboard almost instantly.
Right.
But this isn't just about memorizing where individual pieces are.
Yeah.
It's because their deep knowledge of chess
Right.
connects those critical pieces and their
Mhm.
positions in meaningful ways. So they see the whole game
Yeah.
as a holistic, like interconnected picture.
Right. They see the relationships.
Right. The relationships are key.
And the potential moves that those relationships then create.
Totally. Totally. It's not just the pieces, it's how the pieces relate.
Right. Okay.
And there's another example. Chi and Krishik, they did work where they were looking at children's understanding of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
What they found is that the children who were more knowledgeable about a particular group of dinosaurs
Right.
had far more connections between the different dinosaurs in that group. So the more they knew, the
Right.
more links.
Right. So the knowledge grew.
And the knowledge grew.
And so did the connections.
The connections also grew.
Okay, so it's all about building this web, building this network. But why is that so crucial? Like, why do we care about having strongly connected knowledge?
Well, because when your knowledge is really well connected,
Yeah.
it becomes much more flexible and adaptable. If you understand how different pieces of information relate to each other, you're more equipped to see errors,
Right.
apply your knowledge in new situations that are unfamiliar,
Yeah.
and really adjust your approach when you run into challenges.
So flexibility comes from understanding the links
The links are key, yeah.
between things.
It's not about the individual facts, it's how they connect.
Okay, so we've got deep, connected, and then coherent, which I feel like this is a big one too.
Yes, coherence.
What is that?
So coherent knowledge is knowledge that is internally consistent
Okay.
and free from contradictions.
Okay.
These contradictions can be actual factual errors,
Right.
like believing that the sun revolves around the earth, right?
Right.
Or they can be apparent contradictions that arise from like a superficial understanding
Oh, okay.
or like misconceptions that you have.
Right, right.
So for example, I think this is a classic one, the idea that if you drop a heavy ball and a light feather,
Yeah.
the heavy ball will always hit the ground first, even though in a vacuum they would fall at the same rate.
Yeah.
But that's because we have experience in the real world
Right.
with air
Right.
resistance.
And our brains kind of trick us into thinking that.
Yeah, totally.
Totally.
Yeah. And so having this coherent knowledge
Okay.
actually influences how experts
Yeah.
process new information, right? They tend to pay closer attention to information that aligns with their existing, well-structured, and internally consistent understanding.
Okay.
And they're very sensitive to contradictions or potential inconsistencies.
Okay.
The paper cites a study by Novick who actually showed that experts were more likely to recognize superficial similarities between problems as potentially misleading
Right.
if they conflicted with deeper structural differences
Oh, I see.
that they understood were more important.
Right.
So they're able to look past the surface and see, wait a minute, this might look similar,
But it's not.
but it's not.
Right. Yeah.
And beginners, they might fall prey to that.
They might be fooled by
They might be fooled by the surface level similarities, yeah.
those surface level similarities. Right.
And research on how people deal with misconceptions actually consistently shows that beginners often struggle to identify inconsistencies in their own understanding.
Right.
So when they see information that contradicts what they believe,
Right.
they might just ignore it, downplay it, or try to reinterpret it so that it fits with their existing ideas.
Right. Rather than updating their understanding.
Rather than updating their understanding.
Based on that new information.
Right. And that's a huge thing that experts are good at. They're willing to change their mental model when they see contradictory evidence.
Interesting. Okay, so it's not just about having a lot of facts in your head. Right. It's about having the right facts that are well connected.
Connected, consistent.
That don't contradict themselves.
Yes.
And that you can use in the real world.
Yeah.
So all of that makes total sense. But how do we actually tell if someone has this robust knowledge?
Right. How do we assess it?
Right. How do we see the deepness, the connectedness, the coherence? How does that manifest in the real world?
Well, the paper explains that all those features actually become visible through differences in how experts and novices perform on 4 main types of tasks.
Okay, give me the 4 types.
All right. Number 1, perception. Number 2, memory. Number 3, problem solving. Number 4, transfer.
Perception, memory, problem solving, transfer. Okay, let's go through each one. How does having this robust knowledge affect how somebody perceives the problem or the situation?
So experts really see the world differently, right, in their area of expertise.
Right.
They can immediately focus on the underlying structure and fundamental principles, whereas beginners are more likely to be drawn to the surface details.
Right, like we talked about with the physics example.
Exactly. It's like an experienced doctor looking at an X-ray, right?
Right.
They might immediately spot these subtle but critical structural anomalies that a med student might completely miss because they're focusing on more obvious but less relevant details. And the paper refers to this as feature focusing.
Okay.
Experts are able to focus on the features that really matter.
Right.
And beginners haven't learned that skill yet.
They see everything as equal rather than knowing which are the most important. So they can cut through the noise and get to the core issues right away. Can you train that, or is that something you just,
Well, luckily you can train it.
You can train it.
Yeah. Research has actually shown that, training can help learners develop that more expert-like perception by encouraging them to focus on the deeper structural similarities rather than those surface features.
So you can learn to
see.
To see more deeply.
To see more deeply.
Okay, that's good news.
That's great news.
What about memory?
Memory, yes.
How does robust knowledge, deep, connected, coherent knowledge, how does that influence what we remember and how we remember?
So experts have more efficient ways of storing and retrieving information. And the reason is because their existing, well-organized knowledge in long-term memory acts like a scaffold to support their working memory. So it's not that they have a better memory generally, but their expert knowledge allows them to use memory more effectively.
So it's a framework for memory.
Right, exactly. And think back to the chess study, right?
Right.
They could recall far more pieces because they were seeing meaningful patterns and relationships that weren't even apparent to the novices.
So it's like a filing system.
Right.
Their interconnected knowledge is a better filing system.
It is. It helps them chunk the information together.
Right.
And so they can encode new information more easily.
Yeah.
And they can retrieve it more easily.
Right. Okay. And this isn't just limited to chess, I imagine. This applies to all different kinds of fields.
Oh, yeah. It's been found in math, computer coding, music, sports.
Wow. Okay, so having that interconnected knowledge, it's just a huge advantage.
It's huge.
Okay, all right. Next one is problem solving.
Okay, yes.
How do experts approach problem solving?
So this is interesting.
Yeah.
Experts in many fields actually spend more time initially understanding and analyzing a problem
Right.
before they even start trying to solve it. They're building a rich mental representation of the problem space.
So they don't just jump in.
They don't just jump
Well,
in. They
yeah,
actually, they plan, they analyze, they look at it.
they take the time.
Right. And there was a study done with policy experts that showed that they actually spent significantly more time
Yeah.
in the initial evaluation and problem definition stage compared to novices.
Interesting.
And this was even when the problem was outside their specific area of expertise.
Okay.
So they're really thinking about the problem space itself,
They're understanding the problem
understanding the problem.
before they try to solve it.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And then when they do start working on a solution,
Right.
do they use different approaches?
Yeah, so they tend to use more efficient strategies.
Okay.
And often they'll work forward from the given information towards the solution, guided by their understanding of those fundamental principles at
Right.
play.
So they see the steps.
They see the steps, yeah. And they can build on those steps.
Okay, so the beginner might try to do like what's called means end analysis.
Right, yeah.
Where they're just trying to get to the end.
And reduce the distance between where they are.
Reduce the distance.
And the goal.
And
right,
it can be more trial and error.
Right, without seeing
the overall path.
Yeah, okay. All right, and then the last one, transfer.
Okay.
Which I think a lot of people feel like, I learned this thing, but I can't actually apply it.
Right, right.
So how does that robust knowledge, how does that play a role in transfer?
Yeah, so transfer is often considered like a key indicator of how robust your knowledge is.
Oh, right. Experts can apply what they've learned more flexibly to solve new problems, even if the problem looks very different on the surface.
Okay.
The paper actually distinguishes between near transfer
Okay.
and far transfer.
Okay.
So near transfer is when the new situation is very similar to the original learning context.
Okay.
So it's like applying what you learned in one type of math problem to a very similar math problem.
Okay.
Far transfer is when it's much more different.
Okay.
So far transfer would be like taking the problem-solving skills you developed in math and applying them to planning a complex project at work.
Right. Okay.
Much more different situation.
So do you need robust knowledge for both near and far, or more for far?
It's really far transfer where that robust knowledge is so critical.
Okay.
You can become very skilled at solving routine problems through practice, right?
Yeah.
But the paper distinguishes this. They call it routine expertise.
Okay.
Adaptive expertise is about taking that deep connected knowledge and applying it to genuinely new situations.
Right.
And the paper also points out that there's limited evidence that even highly skilled experts can easily transfer completely outside of their domain.
Oh, okay.
So a world-class physicist might not be a natural at complex financial modeling, even though both involve problem solving.
Yeah, okay.
There are some general strategies that might transfer, but that specific deep knowledge tends to be domain specific.
So expertise is focused.
Expertise is focused, yeah.
Right, okay. So we have a pretty clear picture now of what robust knowledge is.
Right.
We know that it manifests itself in these different ways in the real world. We see it in perception, in memory, problem solving, transfer.
Yeah.
Now, the 4 instructional techniques, how do these techniques practice, worked examples, analogical comparisons, self-explanation?
Right.
How do they help us build
how do they lead
this kind of knowledge?
to this robust knowledge?
Yeah.
Well, the paper connects these 4 techniques to a way of categorizing learning events. So practice is heavily involved in building memory and fluency. Worked examples help with understanding by seeing the solutions. And both analogical comparison and self-explanation are key for deep understanding and sense-making of new information.
And so it's not like a strict one-to-one.
Right.
But those are the primary ways that these techniques contribute to learning.
Right, exactly.
And the question is, how do they help us build deep, connected, and coherent knowledge?
Right. And the authors actually look at each of these techniques through the lens of how they promote those 3 features.
Okay.
We're going to focus primarily on learning in math and science and how these apply in classroom settings.
All right, cool. Let's start with practice. I mean, I think everybody knows that repetition is key, you know. Practice, practice, practice.
Practice makes perfect, right.
Right. But how does it actually build robust knowledge?
Right. Well, the paper actually describes this three-stage model of how we acquire skills through practice.
Okay.
In the early stage, we're consciously using declarative knowledge,
Okay.
facts, rules to try to perform the task. And this is
Mhm.
usually pretty slow and prone to errors.
Right.
But then with more practice, we move into like an intermediate stage
Okay.
where we start to proceduralize that knowledge,
Right.
making it faster
Yeah.
and more efficient. And then finally, in the late stage, the skill actually becomes largely automatic,
Okay.
very fast, very accurate.
It's like when you're first learning to ride a bike.
Exactly.
At first you're wobbling, you're
Yeah.
thinking about every little thing,
Super conscious.
but then eventually it becomes,
Right. Second nature.
Yeah.
It's like you don't even think about it.
yeah.
And researchers, Anderson, for example, has this theory called production compilation.
Okay.
And this kind of explains how this declarative knowledge actually gets transformed into sets of automated steps
Right.
and procedures.
So our brain is taking those conscious instructions
Yes.
and turning them into unconscious habits.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so that's helpful. But does practice alone, does it build truly robust knowledge, or are there limitations?
Well, there are definitely limitations. So while practice can make you really good at performing a specific procedure
Right.
in very familiar situations,
Okay.
it doesn't always transfer well
Okay.
to new problems that have different goals or structures.
Right.
And this is called the Einstellung effect,
Okay.
where you get stuck in a rut with a familiar solution
Yeah.
and you try to apply it even when it's not appropriate.
We've all experienced that. You try to force a solution that worked before
Yeah,
onto a slightly different problem.
right, exactly.
Okay, so are there things that we can do to make practice more effective?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So the paper actually talks about several factors that can make practice more effective. Things like how declarative and procedural knowledge interact,
Yeah.
your existing knowledge on the topic,
Right.
how much mental effort is required during practice,
Yeah.
and crucially, the variety of problems that you practice with.
Okay.
So, for instance, practicing with different types of problems that actually share the same underlying principle
Right.
can help you to develop a more abstract and flexible understanding.
So it's not about doing the same problem over and over.
Right. It's about variety.
It's about
Variety is key.
Okay.
Variety is key for that transfer.
So you're practicing the principle
Practicing the principle.
by seeing it in different forms.
Different forms. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of deep, connected, and coherent,
Yeah.
how does practice relate to those?
Yeah. So the paper suggests that practice
Okay.
really helps to develop procedural deep features
Okay.
that are specific to certain conditions and connections between steps within a single problem.
Okay.
But there's less evidence that practice alone builds a deep understanding of the underlying concepts.
So the how-to, but not necessarily the why.
Not necessarily the why, yeah.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. Worked examples. What are they all about?
Okay, so worked examples.
Everybody's seen them, right?
Yeah, you've seen these. These are the ones where you are given a problem
Right.
along with the complete steps to solve it.
Right. Okay.
And so they're really designed to show learners the correct way to solve a problem,
Right.
providing a model that they can then imitate.
Okay.
Research has actually shown that studying worked examples can be more effective
Yeah.
than trying to solve problems on your own,
Especially when you're first learning something.
especially when you're first learning a new topic. Absolutely.
Okay.
And the idea here is that by showing you the solution steps,
Yeah.
the worked examples actually reduce your cognitive load.
Right. So you're not trying to
You're not trying to figure out,
figure it out.
you can focus on understanding
Right.
why those steps work and how they fit together.
So instead of struggling with the solution,
Yeah.
you can understand the logic
You can understand a lot.
behind the solution
Well,
that's given.
That's given, yeah.
Okay.
And worked examples, they're often most effective when they're combined with some practice,
Right.
Where you can then go and try to solve similar problems yourself.
Okay.
However, the paper actually notes that while worked examples are generally pretty helpful
Yeah.
for learning to solve those similar problems that near transfer,
Right.
the evidence for them promoting far transfer to
Okay.
very different types of problems
Yeah.
is less consistent.
Okay. So you might learn that specific type of problem,
Yeah, the specific type,
but maybe not the broader
the broader principle.
principle.
Right, but again, there are ways to make worked examples more effective.
Okay.
Right? Things like including clear sub-goals within the example,
Okay.
making sure the example is well-designed and easy to follow,
Right.
considering the learner's prior knowledge and the
Yeah.
presence and
Check.
type of explanations.
Okay, so explanations are important.
They are important,
Can't fit much.
but here's the thing. Too much can be counterproductive.
Oh, that's interesting. Why?
Right?
Why?